Hey guys, if you think your neighborhood drama is bad, wait until you hear about a homeowners association so determined to grab land they didn't own, they bulldozed a house that wasn't even in their jurisdiction. You probably won't survive this one without either laughing, gasping, or seriously questioning suburban sanity. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, plus your local time, just so I know which time zones are shaking their heads with me tonight. It starts with a beige envelope, the kind you usually expect to hold junk coupons or a church bake sale flyer. Instead, it holds a $600 HOA bill and a $50 late fee signed in dramatic loops by a certain Barbara Westwood. The only problem, his property, a 5-acre island of oaks and quiet, built by his grandfather in the late 60s, was never part of their subdivision. He fires back politely, armed with land grants and plat maps, thinking it's all a silly clerical hiccup. But instead of an apology, the next envelope accuses him of covenant violations. The mailbox his grandfather poured in concrete, a front door color not on their approved chart, and this is the kicker: oak trees overgrown in violation of landscaping standards. Historians still argue whether Barbara hated the trees for the shade they cast or because she couldn't stand nature that didn't match her Pinterest board. When a call to the HOA's office reveals they've annexed his land into their empire without his consent, the absurdity shifts into fraud territory. Annexation requires notarized owner signatures. He's signed nothing, and county records back him up. This is no gnat buzzing around. It's a hornet. Enter George Henderson, retired land surveyor and reluctant HOA survivor, who casually reveals Barbara's real obsession, an oak tree that blocks evening sun from her rose garden. She's mentioned it at 3 separate board meetings. Fringe fact: roses don't actually need that much direct sun. This is pure pettiness dressed up as horticulture. George warns her tactics will escalate, and sure enough, a thick packet arrives, a formal lien for nearly $3,000. It's fraudulent, but the threat is real. His lawyer, Sarah, is outraged. She'll fight the lien in court, but he knows Barbara's banking on the time, money, and frustration to wear him down. Instead, he decides to shift from being a polite target to a patient hunter, gathering documents, planting security cameras, and preparing for a game of legal chess. Barbara may think she's queen, but she hasn't yet realized he's playing to checkmate. The lawsuit to clear the lien crawls through the courts, both sides trading motions like kids swapping baseball cards they secretly plan to burn. He's neck deep in a federal pension fraud case when he leaves for Geneva, confident the camera's no trespassing signs and pending legal action will hold the line. That's when George's text detonates his calm. They're here with a bulldozer. The live feed on his phone shows the nightmare hard hats circling the house, a chain hooked to the porch, and Barbara Westwood in a white pantsuit looking like she's auditioning for dictators of the HOA. The bulldozer's engine growls, the porch crumples, and the living room where his grandmother used to read to him splinters into history. He calls the sheriff. They arrive too late, duped by a forged court order. Barbara flashes like it's a magic ticket. Sarah confirms the seal is a low-grade photocopy and the signature a laughable fake, the kind even a bored high school art teacher could spot. This isn't civil anymore. Forgery, mail fraud, conspiracy. She's tripped into federal felony land. He switches from grieving grandson to federal investigator on personal leave, documenting tire tracks, collecting the demolition sign as evidence, and recruiting George as his inside man. The fringe tidbit here: demolition companies can be held liable for damages even if they thought they had legal authority, a fact Barbara clearly skipped in her villain's handbook. George spills names: developer Richard Slade, a McMansion-pushing builder; Gary Westwood, treasurer and luxury car dealer with creative bookkeeping skills; and the timid Martins, Barbara's loyal nod squad. He peels back their finances using investigator databases, debt-ridden, over-leveraged, and smelling opportunity in his 5 acres, the missing puzzle piece for Slade's high-density townhouse deal. The demolition was meant to panic him into a cheap sale. The lien was their backup battering ram. Then comes Frank, the demolition company owner, who folds faster than a paper hat when shown the forged order next to a real one. 15 grand in cash from Barbara, half the job price, no questions asked. Frank signs an affidavit. The chain from Barbara's purse to the bulldozer is now inked in sworn testimony. With the HOA's monthly meeting just 6 days away, he files a $10 million civil suit against everyone involved, making sure Barbara gets the summons before she's had her morning coffee. He knows she'll read it and assume he's coming to the meeting desperate. Historians still argue whether it's arrogance or underestimation that topples the mightiest egos, but in Barbara's case, it's about to be both under fluorescent clubhouse lights. The clubhouse smells faintly of burnt coffee and plastic folding chairs. 30 residents sit in uneasy rows. Barbara presides at the long table with Gary and the Martins like royalty awaiting tribute. She smirks when he walks in, certain she's about to swat a gnat. She has no idea she's staring at the storm. She grants him 5 minutes and points to a lonely microphone in the aisle. Instead, he sets up a projector at the front, brushing past Gary's bluster with a quiet command that freezes him in place. Slide 1, his grandfather's brick house under the oaks. Slide 2, the county plat map, a red border screaming independence from the HOA. Slide 3, the first letter Barbara sent starting the fiction of unpaid dues. The room tilts towards him as he rolls through the paper trail. Phony annexation mailbox violations. Tree complaints, each more absurd than the last. Then the forged court order appears on the wall beside a real one. The mismatched seals and fake signature draw audible gasps. And then the coup de grace, Frank's sworn affidavit about the $15,000 in cash unreported in Gary's treasurer's report minutes earlier. Barbara bolts up, calling it slander and demanding he leave. Security shuffles forward until he opens his jacket, flips out his badge, and announces, "I am a federal investigator with the United States Department of Labor." The words drop like a stone in water. Crimes spill from his list mail. Fraud, wire, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Barbara's face drains to ash, her jaw hanging slack. He warns the crowd their insurance won't cover deliberate criminal acts, meaning every complicit homeowner could be on the hook. The residents erupt, shouting at the board. That's the cue. The clubhouse doors swing open. 2 uniformed officers stride in, and he nods toward Barbara, Gary, and the Martins. Handcuffs click. The reign of Queen Barbara collapses in real time. Richard Slade's arrest follows the next day, undone by Gary's sloppy digital records. The HOA falls into receivership. His civil suit settles for enough to rebuild better than before. The new house rises on the same footprint, a modern shell with the same spirit, and George Henderson now heads a fair, functional board. Sometimes sitting on his new porch beneath the same oak branches Barbara once plotted to fell, he lets his mind drift. Historians still argue whether her undoing was greed, arrogance, or underestimating the wrong man. Maybe it was all 3. The light through the leaves softens. The air feels gentler now. There's no sound of engines or shouting, just wind and the creak of old wood. The kind of quiet you can sink into. If you've stayed with me this far, take a deep breath. Let the dust settle in your mind the way it has on that rebuilt porch. The past can be jagged, but given time and care, even rubble can grow roots again. And maybe, just maybe, justice is the best foundation of all.